Hi everybody, welcome to our final Campfire Q&A session for the Tarry's Academy Tarry Summer School. It's a Monday morning and we have got some very brave Tarry people on the phone with us this morning. Here we've got a few of our Tarry Summer School teachers who have joined us. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so a few of our summer school teachers who are joining us. We've got Kellyanne Maddox, who's joining us. We have Melissa Sonova. Am I saying that right, Sonova? Is it? Do I say the V or is it silent?
Yeah, it's like Casanova.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Sonova. Yeah.
Sonova, and we got Stephen Bright. I know Tony she's going to be on here too. So this is a chance for people who would like to have a chitty chat and speak to ourselves, the teachers here for Tarry Summer School, and other students, just to say hello and ask questions and basically just like hang out as a community for a little bit, because we can sometimes get a little bit lonely doing what we do for ourselves. I think that might be a nice place to start, actually. So for those of us who work for ourselves, or for those of us who do a majority of what we do on our own, what are some of the ways that you battle the I work from home and I'm on my own blues?
Yeah, I work for home for my Muggle job as well as this job, and writing as well. So I'm home probably by myself like 80% of my time. And the best thing that I do is schedule time with my friends. Like, I go out to dinner with my friends and I put something on for the next month before we leave. So I have probably 5 meals a month that are with my best friends. Joe and I have date nights every week. I don't work on kid nights when I've got my kids. There's no work. So I like very heavily schedule my private time so that I don't go completely, full whack loony and start rocking and lock myself in a closet. Not that I would ever do that.
Hey, you never say never.
Good point.
Never say never, Melissa. What about you, Kellyanne? How do you combat the working from home and working for yourself loneliness that can kind of sink in when you've been doing nothing but being behind a computer screen?
I always have something booked. I always make sure I've got something to look forward to. I've noticed more and more since I've been self-employed that if I don't have at least a couple of things on the calendar for the next month or two, I start to feel very cabin fevery. And also, to be honest, I can get into a bit of a shadowy place where I want to just be on my own working obsessively and not see anyone and not answer any calls. And it gets quite concerning for my friends and family. They're like, you don't have to work all the time. And I'm like, it doesn't feel like work. It's my life's mission. And it just gets very obsessive and very tunnel vision. So I also book things for me. So I do not allow myself to go into that, because it's quite easy for me to just shut off and never talk to anyone and just get really obsessed. So a trip to Amsterdam planned for this month, and we have a trip away for my friend's birthday next month. I had some things booked in July. I need to have things booked, so I know I'm not going to get into that state of mind.
That's a really good point that you make, Kellyanne, about like not wanting to, because you get you get kind of like the blinkers on like a horse, and you just like head down and go, and then it's so true. It's so easy to get into a spiral where you're just like, I'm just going to ignore that phone call and maybe like bounce out of that appointment that I made.
Yeah, I love the blinkers. I actually have a bit of a thing for the blinkers. So I know that it's not good for me though, and I know that I need to make that decision to have things planned. Yeah, that's a really good, very, very good, I think a lesson for all of us to, because there are some days, I don't know about, especially if I'm doing admin days. I'm working on a blog post at the moment. So my blog, hi Vix, hi Tony, I saw you both jump on. I'm writing at the moment because my son's here at home for summer, and then he goes back to school, so I don't have a lot of time to do blog posts. I'm kind of like just trying to get my client work done. I'll do the blog stuff when he goes back. So I'm writing, getting ready to record for when he goes.
And one of the one of the blog posts I was writing is about the things, the muggle stuff that you need to succeed in this work. And I don't know if many people know just how much admin you do on a daily basis. So if I'm having just an admin day, sometimes I don't talk to anybody but my kid. It's like I literally haven't spoken to another person today.
Yeah, it's quite sobering, and it does make you realise that actually your life is quite different to the vast majority of people you know. And it sometimes I think it's alienating, because most people I know are speaking to other people who they're professionally involved with from like 9 a.m. onwards. And yeah, for me, it's quite different like some days. I agree with you on the admin thing. I think it would surprise people how much there is.
And I think the subject matter too, just in the last week, I've given readings to people about divorce, death, and abortion, death of a child in 3 days. That's my job. That's what I do. And I'm okay with it. But if I spend too much time swimming around in it, like you said, Kellyanne, I just go down, down, down. And then I'm like, everything's fine. The universe handles what and I get all non-Sagittarius about everything. It's just not me. So, yeah, it's the subject matter. You really have to find a way to put some sunshine into your life, for sure.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good point. We do deal with some pretty full-on stuff, and yeah, when you're delving into that dipping into that energy or pulling on that mystical web or however you see it, you don't want to kind of unravel it too much, So yeah, absolutely. So Kimberly has a question. For those of you who have a web business, what percentage is web-based readings and what percentage is live readings? My business was built originally on live readings, but I'm wanting to grow in the web-based aspect. So I'll quickly answer for myself. I did the same thing. Everything was live. I did fairs. I used to work in shops. I did readings mostly through those two things, fairs and shops. And then I moved country and I couldn't do that anymore. Well, I did actually. I worked at a couple of shops here and I did a bunch of fairs here. But getting pregnant and having a baby, it's not, you can't just kind of go, have the baby. I'm going to go bugger off for 8 hours and work back to back at a fair for 3 days. So that's when I moved everything online. And now everything I do is online. And the only face-to-face readings I do are for long-standing clients and for basically for friends and family who are here. That's it. Everything else is online, so I can build it around my schedule of raising my child, basically.
Yeah, all mine are online too.
Yeah, hang on, Tony. I'm just trying to find you so I can keep talking, honey. It'll...
All my readings for the past 3 or 4 years have all been online. And I actually find it better than the face-to-face meetings because people can process it in their own environment. So they take the information, they take it away, and I have no problem with queries coming back to me then and asking me more questions if they don't understand a part of it, because obviously when it's the written word we can get confused at times, or the intention doesn't come out entirely clear to the other person. Their interpretation of my words may be different to actually what I was intending at the time. So I have an open return policy on emails where they can come back to me a few times afterwards to really clarify their situation, and I find that they work through it better in their own environment than actually going and sitting. And there's a lot of people who are uncomfortable with going and sitting and have a reading, especially with Kipper, because it draws out all those skeletons in the closet. And maybe we don't want to share that face to face. And an online way is a way for a lot of people to get the information that they want.
It's sort of like a safety net, isn't it? So like, yeah, people can kind of go and process things on their own, and that's so true, because sometimes, I mean, I'm sure everyone else who does this for a living or does it professionally will agree, you don't sometimes you get feedback straight away, or sometimes you never get feedback. I get that a lot. I had a reading from you a year ago, it was awesome, and I'm back. It's like, oh, okay. But and other times you get a week goes by and they're like, I was just processing everything, and that's true, that like it gives people space to.
You can also go back 6 months later. They can sit down and they have it all in writing. So if you've given a 6-month read, they can actually reassess their situation. And if they've actually taken on any advice that was given, or if they've managed to change anything that they wanted to change. So it is a process, I think, when it's online.
For sure. I think too, and maybe I might be a little, some people may be a little bit frightened, even seasoned readers or readers who want to go pro or just starting to go pro. When you see some of the harder stuff in the cards, I don't want to say darker stuff, but like harder life choices or harder roads or situations in the cards, some people find it very difficult to even relay that to a person, to a person face to face instead of on the phone or an email or on video. So it's a lot of it is also about the language, and and people forget. I like the fact that it's like everything that I say, everything that I do for a client, even my Skype readings, I audio record so that they have an audio file of the recording. So I don't have to go remember what I said, because I rarely remember my readings. I'm like, channel done. So it's definitely good.
One thing to consider about in-person readings, because I've been doing readings for 30 years. I've been doing professionally for almost, I guess, 15 years now. And the time that it takes you to drive to the client, to do the reading, to drive home, all of that time, unless you're charging for mileage and travel time, it is not generally worth the time. Like, my readings are $125 an hour. So if I were to add on 30 minutes of travel time on either side of that and charge the same amount, I would price myself out of business. So either I have to cut my hourly rate, which I'm not doing, or I have to, overcharge a client, because I think my readings are worth $125. They're not worth $350. I don't think they are. And I don't want to price myself out of doing work, because I love what I do and I love my job, and I think I hit a really good spot price wise. But I also live way out in the country, 45 minutes from everyone, and I don't want to inconvenience either myself or the other person. And I will tell you, somebody said you do readings all the time in person. If I lived in the city, it would be a totally different story, And I did spend a long time driving out and doing readings because I wanted to build my client base. So I think that you have to evaluate where you are at each point in your career to see whether or not it's the right choice for you. And right now at 43, with I got books to write and I've got teenagers, and I'm not driving. That's not happening. So you kind of have to see what it works for you, basically.
It's also more environmentally friendly to not drive 45 minutes to go see a client. I have a kind of changing gears here. I have a question for everyone who lives in the UK or in Europe, because we've got Vix online here too. And so I wanted to ask, what is the tarot culture like there? Because I'll give you some why I'm asking, because I have never been. I'm hoping to get there next year. But came from Australia. I worked in a fairy shop when I was like 13. So I was always around like hippie, like Fremantle, hippie, like New Age. There's shops like kind of everywhere. It was quite an open thing. And there's amazing bookshops and all that sort of stuff. Had a big pentagram, like big thing. And then I moved to Canada thinking, oh, that's another quite, liberal country and rah, rah, rah. And then I couldn't find anything. Like, it was like really, there's a couple, like Banyan books and stuff. But I found more in the closet than Australia was. So what is it like there? Is there a lot of shops? Is it more spoken about? Are the book sections in bookshops better?
Should I go, Vix, or do you want to go, honey?
You can go and I'll go after you.
Okay.
By the way.
Hi, darling. The thing I've noticed about tarot is that there's certain areas of the country where you're far more likely to see signage for tarot places and to see more of a presence on high streets of witchy shops and stuff like that. When you go down to Cornwall, there's tarot readers working out of their houses with big posters in their front windows and things like that. And in Cornwall and a few select places up north and just different sort of rural areas, it's more usual to see more shops, more signage, more, you know, people doing those kinds of things and actually being more vocal about it. But in terms of what the shops are like, I don't know how they compare really. I've only visited the States once. I went to New York. I didn't really have witchy stuff on my agenda, although looking at some of the shops they have there, I wish I did have at the time. But I can say for sure that in America, it sounds as though there's a big spectrum of shops. Some of them are more New Age, white light, goddess-centric cards and oracle cards. Some are very serious, like neo-pagan, with much more of the heavy books and the, you know, real kind of well-researched books and stuff. And some have a mixture. Some shop sort of experiences people have had are disappointing, and some are really great. Exact same here. There's such a wealth of different shops. And I live in an area now where I did not think that there was a witchy shop. I didn't even bother looking for one when I came down here, because I told myself the nearest one would be Canterbury. There's not going to be a witchy shop in a little town like this with not really any alternative scene. I found one. I stumbled across it on my birthday, actually, and it was great. So yeah, you never know. So always check online where there is one, because it's quite surprising where you find them sometimes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vix?
I was just going to say, I was at Omega Weekend at the Omega Institute with Liz Dean, who's like queen of, you know, tarot. She's written probably 50 books about tarot. She does readings in a store, like Sainsbury. Is that a thing? Is that a thing in England? Sainsbury? I don't know.
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. But it's like Macy's. But she has a part of that store, and she does readings, like high-priced readings, in a shopping center, in a store. So, you know, that's pretty rad. Yeah.
It can happen. I doubt in the supermarket, but I know what you mean. It will be somewhere around.
Yeah. I don't know the name of the store because I was sleepy. But yeah, it's like Macy's or Saks or something like that. So.
Stephen or Vix, did anyone else want to jump in there?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Is my mic working? Okay.
Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay, that's good.
Hi.
I think that for me, frustratingly over here, there's not really very much where I am in Kent, or at least where I am directly in Kent. But we do have tarot books and that kind of stuff in our main bookshops, but they pretty much are the same thing. All the way, I'm sure that anybody else in the UK can say the same thing. It's very Hay House based, very angels, goddesses, but you know, it used to be different. We used to have quite a bit of diversity, but now that seems to have just faded away.
And Vic, sorry, babe, we keep bumping you. What we're coming in?
Hi. Yeah. So my experience of tarot life is a bit like yours, Anthony, because I grew up in Australia as well. And I remember going down to like the local shopping centre, and there would be witchy shops. Like I bought crystals next to like the CD shop and stuff. So it's been really interesting, like coming here and trying to kind of find that witchy woo-woo world. Kind of like what Kellyanne was saying, like I think there really are these beautiful, amazing pockets here in the UK, like Glastonbury and like, you know, Cornwall and all those places that are really kind of, it feels like there's a home for those sort of stores and people who are doing that work. But I kind of feel like in general, people aren't really as open to it as they are back home in Australia. Like where I live in Kent as well, there's like not a lot happening here. But even when I go into London, there's like, I love Watkins Bookshop, which is incredible. And I can just like disappear in there for a few hours. But in terms of just like trying to find a really nice shop in London, it has like crystals and decks and like all the stuff I want. There's not even really anything in London that I'm like, oh my God, like this is the best shop. But back home where my mum lives, she lives in a town called Drysdale, which is like nearly 2 hours out of Melbourne. She has a crystal shop within walking distance. There's like nothing, there's like a couple of up shops, there's a crystal shop. And in Geelong, there's this amazing shop called Our Satellite Hearts, which some of you guys might know about. And it's just like it's in this really, I mean, Geelong's kind of big, but it's like just this incredible, beautiful shop. And it's like, it's better than any of the shops in London, which kind of blows me away, because I'm like, why is there a shop in Geelong? Which is like, not like, yeah, it's an hour out of Melbourne. Like, it's not even a big city. And there's this incredible shop, loads of woo-woo stuff happening, workshops, all of this stuff. And in London, it's like, there's a few shops, but there's nothing that really feels the same. But that's just my experience. I think it's different for everyone depending on where you are. But I wouldn't say like, yeah, come to London for the crystal shops. Maybe Glastonbury, but yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. And Julie had a really interesting question for even anyone who wants to answer it. So she said, hello, everyone from Paris, France. Bonjour. I would like to know, how do you use tarot for yourself? Do you pull a card every day? Do you use specific spreads for your birthday, a full moon, etc.? So I'm going to hand that over to anyone else who wants to talk about that. So how do you, not just your clients, not, you know, how do you work with the tarot for yourself?
I can answer. I feel like I'm talking too much. So if I'm talking too much, just mute me and I'll shut the fuck up. I promise. I don't read for myself because I will bullshit myself. I'll lay the cards down and go, oh, I know it's the Tower, but I'm sure that just means that I'm totally fine, right? And or I'll reshuffle and lay them out again, and I'm just such a schmoo. So I do a daily poll to kind of see what my day is going to be like, and then if I need a reading, I call one of my friends, because I know me really, really well. And I tend to throw sunshine on everything, even when there's not any sunshine there. And that doesn't serve me in a tarot reading. I don't do it for my clients, but I try to do it for me. Mm-hmm. So I will call one of my friends. And the only time that I do something for myself is actually Ethany sends out those wonderful spreads for like new moons and full moons and seasonal ones. And I have friends, whoever just messaged me. Yes, I pay them very well. Anyway, I do Ethany's spreads just kind of as a general overview, but never for a direct question for myself, because I fake it. Which, yeah, what are you gonna do? So
you're talking about using the tarot as more of a temperature gauge and a more an energy vibe thing, and not really like getting down to the question.
Yeah, if my heart is broken or I'm scared or sad, that's the time that I'm most likely to try to bullshit myself. So it's useless. So I call my friend who goes, girl, we need to talk. Right. So, oh no, it's fine. I have a great sense of humor. Also, I swear like it's my job. So sorry in advance. Sorry.
The swearing doesn't bother me. Anybody else want to share how they use the tarot for themselves? Come on.
I can share. I feel like I'm talking all the time now.
No, please speak.
Yeah, likewise, if I'm going through something really big or challenging, where I'm really kind of like freaking out a little bit, I can't read for myself and I need to get someone else to do that for me. But just kind of on a general day, I tend to read for myself every day. But the way that I read is a little bit different. Maybe it's not different. Maybe other people are reading like this too. But I tend to use the cards as kind of a check-in with my own guides and my own angels in the morning. So I'll pull cards and I'll see what's coming up. And then when I look at the cards, I also journal at the same time. So I turn a card over and then I journal whatever kind of comes through for me with that card. So it's not so much kind of coming at it with a specific question. It's just like, what do I most need to know today? Where am I at? What should I be focused on? And so it kind of comes through in that way, like through journaling and just kind of through downloading the messages, really.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Jacob's got his hand up. Did you want to?
Yeah.
Hi, first of all. Hello.
Hi. How I use the tarot for myself. So, I mean, I'm kind of an unorthodox reader, I guess, for nowadays, because you don't really see a lot of readers who use strictly like Marseille or like the Marielle, those, I guess, harder based decks. But for me, I use these harder based decks, and I use them for more like self-discovery and what messages do I need to know? And it's not only as daily cards, but for me, it's what is something that should I expect for myself to be aware of, or like that shadow side of me. What if something comes up, or what if something that I not scared of, but something I should be more worried of and on top of. So I use the tarot for not only daily cards for myself, but I also use it for more of a advice on where should I be tackling the sides of me that I don't want out today, I guess you could say.
So you're getting ahead of the curve almost. You're like, you don't want to get, where am I likely to get caught out, or where is the apex of like what I'm working on right now and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because often gets me in trouble.
What's life without a little bit of trouble, right? Like, you're not doing it right if you're not getting into like a little bit of trouble. Oh, funny. So is there anyone else who wants to chime in on that one or share anything for their...
I will, if from a different perspective, because I use my cards really practically for fortune telling and predicting to see what's going to happen in the day, and I test them. So I use apps as well, and I may get 20 spreads in a day just to test them and see actually what happens versus the cards that came. A pure old-fashioned what's going to happen today.
And what do you do if they're wrong? Do you punish them?
Well, they're not wrong. The only thing that's wrong is the observations of them. So if it were wrong, it would mean that my interpretation of the meanings was incorrect or biased in any way. So I test continually so I can tell the nuances of the cards that come versus my interpretation. Apps are great for that too.
Awesome. What ones do you use? What apps do you use, Tony?
Well, obviously I'm Lenormand and Kipper. So the Lenormand decks that I have on the apps are by Pepe Valderrama, and obviously my Kipper app.
Yeah, cool. I didn't know you had a Kipper app. Well, maybe
I have a Kipper app.
That's cool. Maybe I did know that. It's early in the morning here. I apologize.
But they're awesome. I mean, all you have to do, your journaling's in there and everything. All you have to do is click on your app, press your cards, and then interpret them and put them in a journal. And I think it's really good for learners to actually do it when they're on the run. I do it to see what my kids have got. If my kid has a fever, I'll say, why has he got a fever? And I'll interpret it using health meanings for the cards.
Yeah.
And then 24 hours later, when I find out what they've really got, I can test it against my interpretation.
So Melissa was asking, what's the link for your Kipper app, Tony?
Sorry, it's on the it's iOS, so it's on the Apple Store. It's called TCG Kipper.
TCG Kipper, everybody. TCG Kipper on app.
Sorry.
That's all right. I just want to write that down for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I want to share. So
yeah, please do. Mm-hmm.
I never use my tarot for. Hi everyone.
Hi.
I never use my tarot for my own daily base. I use it when I have clients over here. I never do clients online. I do it online, but it's clients that I have on other islands. I live on an island, and over here for us, it's like we are in a Pandora box. Sorry, we don't have shops. They are so much richer than anybody else outside. They don't do tarot, but there are some witches and very big. But now I do my sessions privately in my space, and for the rest, I don't have clients online. I am trying to go online, but for me, it's a whole other experience.
Yeah, it is. It is a completely different world when you're, I mean, everything is different. Your communication, like your advertising, the way that you conduct your business and your hours, it's completely different. But if you've got, I mean, my tarot teacher, Gail, in my very first tarot teacher, Gail in Australia, she's got something like a 4-month waiting list to go see her, and she reads from her house and always has. And the only way you can get a reading with her is if you're referred to her by one of her already existing clients, so she doesn't get anyone who, you know, she's a bit worried about coming into her home. And there's a 4-month waiting list as well. So you ring up and you say, you know, so it's a very different thing to having to be constantly online, you know, doing your business.
Yes, my clientele comes to me from clients of friends of friends of friends of friends. So I got my clientele, and but I think I'm getting a little bit, you know, when you have so much clients, you don't have a little bit of privacy, like you all are saying. And I have a teenager too that's going, and for me, is right now the better way to have clients is online, because I'm ill. I did have a surgery, very big surgery on my hip, and right now I have an infection and they don't know where it is. And right now I can't help anyone. Sorry. I'm dealing with myself right now. And for me, it's so awesome to get in touch with others. And for me, it's beautiful. And by the way, thank you for all the courses, because I'm enjoying it.
Oh, I'm glad. And you can also, wouldn't be anything without like the other teachers on here too. And I'm like, will you come and play with me in my sandbox? So they're all into it.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, and I hope that you get better soon. That's no good. That's not fun at all. So does anyone have any questions for Stephen, for Kellyanne Maddox, for Melissa, for Tony, for Vix? I don't know why I say Kellyanne's name when like full name. Anybody else? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi. I've got a question for Tony. I'm enjoying the course, and you kind of gave me on the Facebook group an idea of the orbit spread where I was going, and it was interesting. Just wanted to give you feedback, but I do have a question in general that might be of interest to others. Is that mediumship part of it? My sister-in-law died, right, and for my first marriage, and we didn't get a chance to talk right before she died, and she came that night, and when I continued that reading, it was for her. And everything that in that orbit spread just came out and kind of helped her resolve some things as we talked about it. So it was really interesting. So I wanted just to pass that on, Tony. So thank you very much for kind of just having me, look in that direction and then just let it be and see what came. But I wanted to know, do you ever mix, because I mix sometimes Lenormand and tarot together. Do you do that with Kipper ever?
Oh, hang on, Tony, you're muted. Hang on, sweetie. All right, now.
I'm sorry.
I've got it.
I'm a noob. I actually taught a course on reading Kipper and Lenormand together, and I actually posted the other day when Stephen Bright did his presentation at Tabby. I used the Kipper on top of the tarot. And I did when we were at Reader's Studio as well. I pulled the same spreads and I sat the Kipper above it. And the great thing is you can use as many systems together as you like. The only thing you need to remember is you need to respect that system. So the read is it's on so many levels, with Kipper being situational, Lenormand being its symbolic, practical read, and then the tarot giving you the spiritual side, if you like. You can use the three systems to compile a reading that includes everything. So you could, for example, use Kipper for the psychological situation, or my favorite is to use it as the underbelly. So you could have the tarot read, but you want to know about the underbelly of that situation, the situation that you don't know about, like in the course where we did the hidden or the invisible. And you can use the systems in that way, as long as you respect each one as it is. I have one deck somewhere that's mixed with Lenormand, so I can always pull a Leno mix with Kipper. And it shows a different part of the story depending on what the placements are. And they all, I can't think of the English word at all, I've got the German word stuck in my head. But they work with each other, and what do you call it when they give you a little bit extra? So they do.
Yes.
Thank you. So they complement one another, but they also widen the story for you, as long as you recognize their different personalities, if you like.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jacob had your hand is up again, sweetheart. Did you want to come and ask a question?
Yeah, I was more wondering, because you guys are all lovely teachers, and I am starting at my own course, but for my course, it's more on how to really mentor other people and how to not really teach, but take in someone as a mentoree. And because I see a lot of tarot readers who are my personal friends who want to mentor but just don't know how to do it or where to start, and I'm trying to help them, but it's one of those things that I'm just wanting some advice on, really what is the best way to start that course and get it really out there. And like, I have my own tarot business and stuff online, but tarot courses don't get a lot of traction unless if you already have a bigger, I guess, circle of clients.
I can actually help with this because I built my entire client base without the internet back in the day, because I'm old. And one of the things that I did is I would teach a group class at a local store or shop for like $20 a person. And then I would, at the end of it, say, if you'd like to sign up for personal classes, coaching, whatever, here's my number and here are my rates. And I would already have the class broken down, price set, and I would use the clients that came to me to begin with to find new ones. And that seemed to help really well, because if they didn't want to do it, they had a friend who did. And so I was able to use something that was very simple and very accessible and say, if you want to take a step up, if you want to do a little bit more, here are the things I offer. I offer coaching, I offer personal training, I offer blah, da, 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 da. And then that was my opportunity to kind of touch base with somebody who's already interested in tarot. Does that help? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did, and I've been thinking about going back to going to metaphysical stores and stuff to teach again, because I used to do that here in not my own town, but back when I lived in the city, I used to do that, and I stopped doing like beginner and advanced courses on it because I only had an hour to 2 hours to teach, where I had to always come back to do it. So I'm strictly doing that online. But with mentoring, it was kind of hard because that is something that is constant. So yeah, that did help.
Can I jump in here as well with something? I hear what you're saying, Jacob, about a course not being able to get traction unless there's already a client base there or an audience there of some magnitude. And the way that I got into doing one-on-one tarot mentoring, which is kind of not the same as what you're suggesting, but got people interested in having me as a teacher anyway and a tarot mentor, was I put out a 10-part free series on my YouTube channel when I really didn't have a very strong audience at all. It was really right at the beginning, but because I gave it a name name and I split it into 10, and I said, right, the next installment will come the next week, and then the next week. I basically showed what I knew. And I often say to people, if you want to have people pay you for ongoing training or mentoring or anything like that, the irony is that before you can be paid for teaching, you have to show what you know. And once you show what you know, how you would present it and be engaging with it, and then have people coming back to your site or your channel or whatever for the next installment and the next, then at a certain point you're like, okay, that's the basics provided, or that's the overview in 3 lessons or 4 videos or whatever. And now if you want to go on, this is where, you know, that you make a payment to get the rest of the materials, or you make a payment to work with me one-on-one as a mentor, or this is my class or whatever. So if you show what you know and create it in an engaging way where it's like, oh, this is something that this person is giving that shows me what he's capable of doing, then that kind of whets people's appetites for other things that where they do provide you with payment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. And I know exactly what you're talking about, Kelly, because I remember actually watching you as one of the first people as my Torah journey. So I do remember videos like that and stuff, because for me, I was mentored by Barbara Moore when I was younger, and Angelo Nasius. I can never pronounce his last name, even though I literally spoke to him all the time. I can never pronounce
Nasios.
And those two helped me greatly, and I got to where I needed. And they strictly are really right away based people. And now that I'm going with Marseille and stuff, I'd really like to teach more people that, because a lot of people I find are very afraid of it, and that's why I really want to mentor.
Yeah, that would be absolutely great. There aren't enough resources out there about Marseille, and I get emails asking, and I give like the few things that I've seen, because people, when they want to learn and they want to go towards it, they find that there aren't necessarily the same, anywhere near the same level of resources, because as you said, people are afraid of it. And it would be great to have more stuff out there for sure. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, and especially the Marielle. But no one knows the Marielle or has it for me to really mentor with that. So
you could be the one to bring it back. It's weird. It's like there's a hardcore of people that adore it. I don't know if many professional readers read with it or not, but I'm not sure about
Rachel Pollack does. She was talking about it this weekend. And I do for certain readings. Like it feels like it's going to be a Mary L reading. And I'll ask the client, do you want to use this deck? It's pretty intense. And oftentimes they'll say no. And so it's pretty heavy. There's a lot of penises in it too. And that for some reason distracts people from the reading, I found, because they're like, oh, and they get pulled out of the reading. So I don't use it a lot, because if there's too many penises, clients start giggling. And I'm like, nope, stay with me. It's just the dick. Let's just do our reading. Come on. So it's like babysitting sometimes.
It's a really good segue to a question that that is interesting. How do you, because there is so many decks and there is so many artistic interpretations of all of the systems of Kipper, Lenormand, Tarot, Marseille, Thoth, Rider-Waite, how do you as readers kind of navigate some of the obstructions, or some of the times that you come up against someone saying, oh, the art's too fluffy, or the art's too dark, or like, you know what I mean? Like how, because I've definitely come up against that. Like, you know, some people really balk at nudity, and some people really like if it's any, and I've even I had to give away the Apollo Marseille, the one that has all the intestines on it. I did a walkthrough and I was like, I'm not, this is not for me. And it's, so how do you, how do anyone here, have you ever had a client just go, no, this is too fluffy, or this is too visceral or whatever, and how do you kind of bring it back?
I want to answer.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Marseille reader. I use my Marseille on the daily basis with my clientele. They never ask me for other decks. I have a ton of decks. Right now, the Tarot Reader Academy is helping me getting in touch with other decks. And that's right now I'm using only Marseille. and I do the grand tableau. I don't use other spreads for my clientele, and they ask for it. The Marseille, you have something that the Marseille is strict, right into your face. And that's what I like. And no one has asked me until now to shift the reading or to go with the other card. I think I'm on the base that I'm strict. I want the things to go in one way. For me to have a wonderful reading, that's it. I don't go around the bush. And my guides, I think they are so too. That's the main thing. And right now I'm learning. I'm learning to use other decks, and I'm so excited to learn about that, because it's a different world.
Oh, I'd like to give an answer as well. Oh, I can hear myself. Oh, there we go now. So I have kind of maybe it's somewhat controversial or sort of different to what a lot of readers do, because I've noticed a lot of readers actually provide a list of the working decks they have and give the client the opportunity to choose. That just makes my skin crawl. That is one of my sort of most exciting things, is being like, right, what kind of reading is this? What kind of deck is needed for this? Like, that's part of the joy that I have as a professional reader, is making that creative decision. If a client I do give them the option of tarot or oracle though, because I give myself the choice, and I always say, if you want tarot, let me know you want tarot, that's fine, but I will always be the chooser of the deck. And I'll explain a little bit to a client why I chose a specific deck. If a client came to me after the fact and said, I really didn't like that imagery because it was triggering in some way, or it was unpleasant for me, so in the future I prefer you didn't use that kind of deck, I would take that on board. But I never let myself worry overly about my decision as I'm making it, because to me it's important sometimes to be challenged by imagery, and a lot of the time there's a reason, whether I don't know it at the time or afterwards. If a client has to ask themselves why would that be, there's a reason sometimes that imagery is selected that is challenging and does poke you in the shadow. And I think the caliber of clientele that I have, the type of clientele I have, actually respect that. They actually know that sometimes imagery might come up that makes them go, oh, I don't like this, and they will have the wisdom to understand that actually that's probably important and they need to go with that and sit with that. Yeah, I definitely would say, you know what, I won't use that deck again if you didn't like it. But I think most of the time I don't worry if a client is not feeling the imagery. That's probably important to the process of the reading.
I agree with you, Kellyanne, for a different reason. I used to go to, when I did in-person readings or like parties or, working at a bar or what have you, I would bring 3 decks and I would say, choose the one that you like. And then they would do the thing. And then I just got, I like that these are my tools. They're the tools that I use, and I need to feel comfortable with them, and they need to feel good in my hand. And since I'm doing the reading and I'm in charge, I bring whatever deck I want to. And if they don't like it, tough shit. I mean, not to be an asshole or anything, but this is the reading that I'm doing. These are the cards that I felt I needed to bring for your reading. So you're going to get the reading I give you. And I found that it makes, like, the one that I choose, I'll just randomly pick one, and it just fits the reading. It fits the client. And oftentimes they'll want to buy it, or they'll really like the art. And it also gives me an opportunity to work with different tools all the time instead of going back to, like, popular ones, But I found that the more control I take over my part of the reading, the better they go. The more comfortable I am. Like, I used to dress up and put on lots of makeup and jewelry, and clearly that's not my style. And the more me I am in a reading, the better my readings are. So if I show up in jeans and Converse and and have my crystal unicorn tarot, 90% of the time the person I'm reading for loves unicorns, and they're going to be more open and receptive to that. It just kind of works out.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a space, I think, for both ways. When I worked at a store, I'd take in probably way too many decks of the day, and I would have them out, and I'd say, if you're really drawn to one, let me know. But I would usually choose. But at home, I absolutely 100% choose. I'll get the client information they send to me. and I've connected with my guides and everything's ready to go because I batch my readings, and then I'm like, okay, what deck is going to be best? And I have definitely got themed decks. I've got a few decks that I love doing love readings with, and I have a few decks I love doing career readings with, just because the imagery for me speaks on those levels. And then I'll always say in the introduction, these are the decks I'm going to be working with today for your reading, and this is a spread I've created for your reading, and why. And I love that. I love the being able to do that, because it's like I select a friend to come along with the journey for you. This is our little journey friend. But also what you're saying, Melissa, about the more you take control. Yeah, totally. You're the professional. So whether you are guiding them to pick their own deck or you're doing it for them, you're the one who's steering the ship. So like, be comfortable steering the ship no matter which way you do it. You know, they're there for your guidance, your time, your interpretation, your work. So be comfortable steering the ship no matter which way you want to do it and how you want to do it. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, but I love that. Lean into the style that works for you and definitely steer your own ship for sure. Does anyone else want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, if that's okay. I mean, I did speak a lot. But for me personally, one of my favorite readings to give is the all 5 operations of the opening of the key. And even though that is quite a long spread out of a reading, and I always use the Alice Crowley Thoth deck because it's like it's in the Book of Thoth. I always knew it for that deck, and I had someone purchased it knowing nothing about it, and I even had in the description stuff, hey, this is the deck I always use with this, and she hates the deck. She said it, like, I don't know, she just hates it. So I ended up changing to the Hermetic Tarot. If you guys know what that deck, it's not much different from the Thoth with the imagery, a little different, but it's also black and white. And she looked at it, she's like, I really love these cards. I'm like, they're very similar to the Thoth. And she's like, really? So I think if you can, not a lot of decks are very similar, but if you have a deck that is similar, and someone says, I don't like the imagery on these, because they just hear reviews and stuff. Because for me, like the Marielle, I just heard reviews and I hated the cards because of the reviews. Because I heard about it when it first came out, and products, like the cards were not very good and stuff. So I just hated the deck. And then I actually saw the cards and I liked it. So if you have a deck that you like, I say go ahead and use it, because that's what I do. Or use a deck very similar to it. Like, some people don't like the Prisma visions, but they like the light visions. So I think using decks that are similar will work out just the same. So,
that's interesting, right? Like you're saying, some people like the crystal visions and not the light visions. It's the same deck, just one's in color and one's in, well, not monochrome, right? Like not black and white, but monochrome. And then the conversations that go on in our multiple community groups around, like, do you like black and white decks, and yes, no, and like all that. It's very interesting. So yeah, it's very true. Sometimes a slight variation can help can help for sure. Yeah. Is there anyone here who does, because I do Oracle and Tarot, but I only ever use the Oracle to close out a reading and to sort of sum it up and all that sort of stuff. Kelly, you were talking about how you give people an option. So how do you find, if you don't mind me picking your brain, how do you find the reading is different going from the free-flowing format of Oracle text, which can literally be anything because it's such a wide, then to more the systemized tarot? So how do you find that transition?
I don't actually find it to be as extreme as I think a lot of people describe finding it, to be honest. And I use with tarot I use everything I know, all the interpretations I've come across over time, the universal standard definitions, I think is what I've used to call them, like the thing that, you know, the common ground we have around every card. But I also let myself go off the beaten track and I connect to the client's energy and their notes and everything like that. if things come up that wouldn't necessarily fall under the remit of a particular card, I trust that anyway and I go with it. And sometimes even just zooming into a tarot card and looking at a specific thing within it, like, you know, the light inside the hermit's lamp, I might be talking much more about what that symbolizes specifically than the hermit's energy in general. And I do the exact same thing with oracle as well. So with an oracle deck, I might not necessarily go connect so much with the word, but I'm connecting with something in the imagery that's really making me think about the client's situation. So I read with tarot and oracle the same way in that regard. I let myself have creative license to go where I want to go. The only thing with oracle, if you're coming from a strong tarot background that I am, is that I'm very picky with the decks. There are some decks that don't have, either the concept is not strong enough, or I feel like there's a bunch of cards that have the same energy or mean essentially the same thing. And I've worked with decks a while before, oracle decks, and I thought, you know what, something's wrong here. It's like I'm getting 3 cards in the same reading that I feel are just, they just hold so much the same energy, or they even have similar kinds of names. You know, like we're talking about, I don't know, like a card that says seed, but a card that says earth, or a card that says like water, and a card that says like, I don't know, life force or something. Just something where I'm thinking this is all the same sort of thing. Then I lay the whole deck out and I'm like, yeah, there is quite a lot of the same sort of thing. I almost got rid of my vessel oracle because there's something like light, star, birth, and this one that's like, what is it, like manifest and birth or something, like a lot that are the same. I kept it because the concept is strong, but I've gotten rid of other oracle decks where there's not enough variation. With tarot, everything really means what it means, and there's like, I feel like there's a healthy amount of meaning that is not overlapped with any other card. Or the oracle decks I work with have got to be the same, otherwise it feels too fuzzy and I feel like I'm having to bring stuff up that isn't necessarily actually there.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Does anyone else do a lot of oracle readings or readings where they give the option?
The only oracle deck I like is yours, and I'm really pissed about it because I used to put people on. I don't like oracle decks because there's no order, and I want my 78. And I want my major arcana. This is bullshit. These are too, floofy. And then you put yours out, and I was like, God damn it. These are really great. And they're really great to use in a tarot reading, because I can do, and if they have clarifying questions, I'll pull an oracle card and they'll go, oh, okay, I see what that means. And it's more human and more relatable than I think some of the more esoteric meanings of the tarot can be. So thanks a lot, Bethany. So
oh, thanks. I didn't pay her for that, by the way. That was not a paid endorsement, but I will give her a bit of a, later. We know each other, so that was appropriate.
That was a lot.
So question for the Marseille users. Did you read Alejandro Jodorowsky's book? I asked that because he was a big institution in the tarot world here in Paris. I've got that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's pretty much a big cheese like in tarot, and I learned the tarot kind of by myself with one book, and learned the rest of it. So now, I've just now started reading, The Key to the Tarot by Waite and Jodorowsky, and you also might look into Enrique Enriquez has some wonderful writings about the classical meanings of the tarot. I think it's important. It's not necessary, but I think it's really cool to go back and find out, why the Fool's Little Dog is there, and why the M is on the side of the cup in the Ace of Cups. I think that it's not necessary. As I say, I didn't do it for a long time, so I hope it's not necessary. But I think it can enhance your readings to find out what those symbols mean. So it's really cool. But yeah, Jodorowsky is a big deal.
I laugh at Waite's book. I don't know if anyone else has read it, but fuck, it's dry. Like, you can imagine he was like a crusty old dude.
Oh yeah, it's as dry as popcorn parts, but
And then you pick up Eden Gray's book as well, and you're just like, wow.
From
Alfred, I think it's Alfred Douglas's book, The Tarot. If you can find that book, I found it. I got recommended by a teacher, and then I found a really shitty copy in a secondhand bookstore. And then I found a really good, like a mint fucking copy of that book. And I was like, you know, when you go into a secondhand bookstore and you find like that, like a good tarot book, and you're like, shit, yes, this goes for like hundreds of dollars on Amazon. Like, you don't know what you have. Quick, buy it for $3 before they figure it out. You know, like that was kind of like how I felt. And then like, everyone's like, you are mad. I'm like, no, it's amazing. That's when you have a good day. I call those the good days. I'm like, yes, good day. But yeah, I agree. Like, you don't have to. You certainly don't have to read Waite's book, or you don't have to read Tarot of the Papas, or you don't have to read Bohemians, or you don't have you don't have to read, you know, Blatsky or freaking Israel Regardie, or you know, or the Book of Thoth, or you don't have to. But you can certainly see where all those mystery lodges and mystery traditions, and you know, the Rosicrucians, and where all of that comes from. You know, like where all those symbols, like where the books that we are writing, where the bones of that's the bones of it. We've been able to get these amazing new insights and new decks, like the New World Tarot, the next World Tarot, and the Numinous Tarot, and the Marielle, and all these decks that are like completely breaking boundaries and becoming these incredibly inclusive things because of the bones and what we've been given to work with. So yeah. But yes, if they're dry, try it in pieces, or at least read it before bed if you want to fall asleep.
You know, Annabelle's book, Annabelle Wen wrote that wonderful book that's like, what, this thick?
Tarot?
And I love it, but I couldn't read it in one sitting. It was too much information. Holistic Hero, thank you. I love Annabelle. She's one of my closest friends in the tarot universe. And I was like, your book is killing me. So I read it in little bite-sized chunks. And I access it when I have questions, or if I'm in the middle of writing a book right now. And if I get stuck on a symbol, I go to Annabelle or I go to Jodorowsky, and I get like that not old, but that clarification, that scholarly interpretation of something that I read naturally and intuitively. And that can often trigger me to spin off into a different direction and give me more of an enhanced view of the cards. But it's bigger than my head. That's not nighttime reading, for Christ's sakes.
No.
Yeah. And Annabelle has lots of free resources, just like Anthony. So they're excellent.
So we're about to thank you. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Annabelle's book is amazing. So thank you for everyone for joining. Did anyone, especially any of the teachers who are here, want to say anything or add anything? I just want to give a moment to see if there's anything anyone wants to say. And if not, then we will be letting everyone get on with their evenings.
It's probably something everybody would want to say, but just thanks for the opportunity and the experience. Yeah. Really different and amazing. I've really enjoyed myself.
Oh. Well,
yes,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you everyone as well in this amazing community. I mean, like, I feel like we're so lucky that we have technology to connect us now, because otherwise it would be a little bit lonely, wouldn't it? We were sitting in a corner of the world doing our thing and not really getting to talk to anyone. So thank you, everybody. I'll be uploading this replay later. I hope you'll have a really awesome day or awesome evening. Thank you for joining us. And you rock my world. You all do. So thank you. Bye.